All right. And I think we're going live here. All right. So, all right, guys, we are also live on YouTube. So you'll have this recording. You can also find it on YouTube. All right. Disclaimers. Okay. Laws and agency SOPs may be more restrictive. So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm teaching to a national audience. Now, where I have found some distinctions, right? Like Massachusetts has some issues here, right? We're going to talk about Massachusetts case law and so forth. But where, generally speaking, I speak to a broader audience. But you know that the Fourth Amendment applies to everyone. And your state may be more restrictive in your policies. If you have any doubts about what you're pushing up there, I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments for those people who are on YouTube. I see there's a few hundred people here live on Zoom, and so I'm reading comments and I'm laughing. If you have any doubts about what you're putting up, about what you're doing out there, push the chain. And finally, this course is legal education. I am a licensed attorney, but I'm not your attorney. So always remember that your attorney wins. If they're your attorney, that's who you got. All right. We got plain view. We got plain field. We got some takeaways. And that's true. Charles, actually, so for my YouTube viewers, Charles is saying that Florida follows federal rules. In fact, there are only 2 states in the union that constitutionally, their state constitution says that we will follow the federal search and seizure standards. Florida is the first one. Who can guess the second one? Nice job, Sean. California, which surprises a lot of people. And that's why, quite frankly, that the California, actually, better than Florida, you might be surprised, but California has the best search and seizure case law in the country. And everything else they do is all jacked up. I'm not saying I'm voting for any politician in California. However, when it comes to search and seizure, they got it the best. All right, plain view. Yeah, it's pretty surprising. Now, plain view observations are not searches under the Fourth Amendment. As they say, right to be, right to see, right? Right to be, right to see. So, but there are some limitations, I had a class today, and one of the cops in my class is like, yep, when it comes to, plain view and so forth, you can use all of your senses. He says you can use smell and sight and hearing and taste and touch. And I said, you know what? I really haven't seen a plain taste case since the early 1980s. You know what I'm saying? Never when the cops, the narcs in the early 80s would do plain taste. Shit. That's some good cocaine, right? Don Johnson style, a little, nose candy. Now it's really about plain sight, plain sense, or plain smell, and plain hearing, right? Okay, so Brian is also a firefighter and sworn officer, but you're telling me that the firehouse does not smell good, Brian? Does not smell like fresh steaks and asparagus? You ain't fooling anybody, my friend. I know how the firefighters work. The term search is said to imply some exploratory investigation, invasion, quest, looking for or seeking out. A search implies some sort of force. It implies a prying into hidden places for that which is concealed or hidden, right? Though searching relies mostly on sight, the mere looking at that which is open to view is not a Fourth Amendment search. A Fourth Amendment search involves a protected area. If not, it's not a search. So these plain views, whatever, are not searches because there's no privacy interest. Now, there's legally a difference between plain view and open view. What's the difference? Right? What's the difference between plain view and open view? That's right, Anna. I think Shane is onto something here, right? There's no expectation of, there's no constitutional issues, right? With open view. But there may, this is kind of, all right, this is not right. Anyway, this is not right. So open view, what the hell is going on here, Rick? Would you all right, I don't know what that last slide is. It actually doesn't make any sense. It's from something else. All right. So under plain view, there could be an issue of whether you're lawfully present, right? So plain view, you're inside a home and you see a kilo of cocaine on the kitchen table. That's plain view. That's not open view. Open view is when there's no issue involving the Constitution. Think open fields, right? If you're in an open field and you see a marijuana grow, strictly speaking, that would be better classified as open view because there's just no constitutional issue whatsoever. At the same time, I personally don't use plain view. I'm sorry, I use plain view. I don't use really open view, right? Every time I see something that's contraband, I just say plain view, even if I technically mean open view. I don't think there's a lot of traction in distinguishing these between the two. I don't think that's really, but and I've actually only seen one agency, just one police agency in the nation that teaches the difference, and that's Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And that's fine, but all others pretty much use plain view. All right, so here's an example. We're in a house conducting a domestic violence investigation. We have reason to believe that somebody else is dangerous. Let's say the husband is hiding from us. Okay, this is a great example, right? So we're in there. The wife calls us up. Come on in. My husband is trying to hit me. And while we're in there, where we're looking for the husband, we go downstairs and we see a marijuana grow operation. That's plain view. And the reason why is we have to make sure that we're lawfully present. If we're in the home and we didn't have a right to be there, let's say that, she called up and she says, hey, let's say she called 911. My husband is yelling at me and will not, stop yelling at me. We're not going to be able to get into that house with those facts, right? And if we just walk in, all right, where's your husband at? We're going to teach him a lesson, put a gag on him, right? That would not be lawful. So then it would not be really plain view anymore because you don't have a right to be, right? All right. That's true. Brett says maybe in the warrants, right? Maybe in the warrants. Okay. So open view, right? Open view is where you go to a house and, hey, this guy has a marijuana grow in the back 40 acres. You go back there and you see the marijuana grow. That's open view. Let me give you another example, right? So a cop pulls a vehicle over. And when he's talking to the driver, he looks in the back seat and sees drugs. That's in plain view. Why? Because if we have an unlawful traffic stop, it all blows apart, right? It all blows apart. But versus this, right? You walk by that same car as it's parked, on the street. That is, and you see the drugs in the back seat. That is plain view. Now, Grant says, hey, what if we use a flashlight to see the drugs at night? Flashlights do not matter, okay? You're not going to change a plain view or open view into a search by using a flashlight. I call this the sunlight rule, right? The fact that you're illuminating the space as long as you're lawfully present, the fact that you're using illumination is not going to flip the script, right? It's going to be the same thing, open view and plain view. Excellent question. Rick, you think my language like flip the script? I'm a cool guy, don't you? You think, it's just like, I'm just really hip into the young crowd, right, Rick? Okay, why does it matter? Again, because you have to justify. Oh, Rick is trying to do the sunlight rule. Okay. So, and for those, right, Sean, you're a little late to the game. You know what I mean? I said sunlight rule like 10 minutes ago. Okay. Hayden. All right. So Hayden says, how about using a cell phone to see through tint? So you put your cell phone up all the way to the tinted window and you're touching the window and you put on your camera. I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but is that a search? Is that plain view or is that a search? Okay. All right. That is actually a search under the Fourth Amendment, right? It's a search under the Fourth Amendment. And Matthew, what's up, Matthew? My good friend Matthew from Indiana. And it's a search because of two reasons. Number one is you are invading their privacy. You don't have a right to look in their tint. And even if it wasn't a privacy interest, you're physically touching the car, which is a search under a case called Jones with Matthew said. Yep, and it's also similar to chalking a tire. All right. So, plain view, right? Plain view, you have to be lawfully present, right? That's the main thing here, right? So let's talk about this case. The cops had a warrant for a guy staying at a hotel room, okay? Who chalks tires in. And they get the master key, to open up the door, right? And they knock on the door, hey, police, type of things. They want to arrest this guy. Well, I got to tell you, like, there's another thing happening in this case is that not only do they want to arrest him, but they also want to get into the hotel room to see if they can see plain view evidence, because the word on the street is that this guy's selling narcotics. So he answers the door and jumps out of the room and closes the door. The cops like, well, shit, this is not quite how we thought this would happen, right? So they have the arrest warrant, not a search warrant. They open the door back up. They push him back in. They then hook him up for the arrest warrant, and they see the evidence in plain view, right? And you know what the answer is. No good, right? So Julian asks, hey, would using the cell phone to see the rear occupants during the stop still be considered a search? Yeah, it's still a search, but it might be a reasonable search. The thing is, though, you should have a reason for doing that, right? I mean, I would like you to at least ask them to roll down the windows, right? Exactly. And if they refuse to roll down the windows, then do what you got to do to be safe and call it an officer safety exception, right? But it's still going to be a search, and I think you'll be okay. All right. So what about this case? A cop is in the hallway of a motel room, motel, right? And he puts his ear down to the lower portion of the door, and he can hear a conversation, and he can hear them, involved in criminal activity. Is that a search? Yes or no? Okay. Yes, no, yes, 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 yes. And let's say he does not touch the door. Does not touch the door. He's in the hallway. He's in the hallway. Okay. Okay, good. The answer is there is no search here, right? Because it's sound waves escaping into the hallway. The cop is allowed to be there, right? No search, but a little gray. All right. The officers were exercising their investigative duties in a place where they had a right to be, and they were relying upon their naked ears. The defendants sought to keep their conversation private and did not expect that law enforcement officers would be located just a few inches away from the cracked door below. At the same time, though, here the conversation plainly were audible by the naked ear in the next room, and no search occurred, right? So even though they didn't expect it, it's still their problem, right? If they don't want other people in the hallway to hear their conversation, they're going to have to speak a little quieter. Now, courts don't have a phrase for open hearing or smell. They call them plain hearing or plain smell, regardless of the area, right? Okay, actually, Brian asked a very good question. What if the officer used a stethoscope? Would that be a search? Yes or no? Put the stethoscope on the door. Search, yes or no? Yeah. That's definitely a search. Yeah. All right. Good job. Yep. Okay. Good job. All right. So let's talk about curtilage, right? So you must act in a socially acceptable manner while in curls unless you have exigency. Okay. So this rule is kind of talking about, knock and talks, right? And a lot of cops will see evidence in plain view during a knock and talk. So this is one of the more famous cases that I've seen on this issue. And let me just kind of explain, what happened. Okay. I'm trying to look on YouTube real quick too. So let's see the answer. So A person online says, look, what if a First Amendment auditor goes to a police department and they're in the lobby and they put their ear against the door of a door that says authorized personnel only? Can the police do anything? And the answer is probably yes. And the reason why is that, when it comes to public buildings, a lot of First Amendment auditors believe that if it's a public building, they can do whatever they want. They can go to the assessor's office and sit there for 8 hours straight and record the assessor doing their job, right? They can go to the police department and go to the lobby and just hang out there for all day and record. The problem is that still may be considered trespassing under state law, right? And the reason why is that the law allows the government to use their buildings for the proper purpose. And if you have a person who's going to the police department and just going up to the doors and trying to listen in on conversations, they're not there for the purpose of the public building. And the door that building is there for police reports and so forth and criminal investigation. So a lot of First Amendment auditors who I respect the First Amendment, right? But a lot of First Amendment auditors think that they can just do whatever they want inside buildings because it's a public building. That public building is not a public forum, fully a public forum under the First Amendment. Those areas are in front of City Hall, the sidewalks, the parks, and so forth. So there's your answer. I would be a little careful on that one. Otherwise, it could be a trespass. So, all right. So going back to the case at hand, here's what happened. A guy named David Bowling drove intoxicated while going home and killed a pedestrian. Okay. And as he leaves the scene and he goes home, and this is his home, right? So he goes home, and a few weeks, I'm sorry, about 3 days later, somebody observes that he pulls the vehicle into the garage. He's hiding it. He's acting kind of suspicious, and they don't know that he was involved, in this autoped. But it seems pretty coincidental that he actually is hiding his vehicle now, and on the news is a person who got killed in a traffic accident. So this person that observes it, I think it's a neighbor, reports it to Crime Stoppers. And a detective goes out there and does a knock and talk, and nobody answers the door. And he sees, you can kind of see that, I try to make it kind of clear. It's a little small, but yeah, you can't really see it from here. But he left his garage door open about 12 inches, right? So that an animal can come in and out. And the cop got on his hands and knees and looked into the garage. Now, he did not enter the garage. He kind of looked up, and what did he see? He saw the suspect's vehicle, and he knew that the perpetrator's vehicle was a Ford truck, tan in color, and he saw a 1986 Ford Ranger with front end damage consistent with an accident. So he puts those observations in a warrant, and what does he call it? He calls it plain view, right? Plain view. However, he's on curtilage. Are we good? Yes or no? Okay. Yeah, the answer is we're no good, because he's actually invading on a person's expectation of privacy. I imagine myself being at this house, and I'm just a regular citizen, and I see a head come up into my garage, or just look into my garage. How you doing, sir? Hey, I'm with the government. I'm with the ATF. Can I see if you have any pistol braces? Can we talk a little bit? I would feel offended, not just about looking for my pistol braces, but also because I don't expect my government to be looking in my garage like that. And so, and the Girl Scout rule, right? So you're going to have to, you don't have exigency here. And so it's going to be violated. Now, another issue here too is that, believe it or not, because the cop did not put in the warrant that he actually got on his hands and knees, he just put in there the garage was open and I saw the vehicle in plain view. Because he's not put the truth in there, the court suppressed the vehicle. All right. What about this one? This is a case where, okay, so You're talking about the hotel case, Anna, right? Where they're talking in the hotel room. So look, they do have a reasonable expectation of privacy to a degree, right? But they don't have an expectation where they can't expect that all their words are not going to be heard by somebody in a hall. And the other issue there, and I know you're thinking to yourself, well, Anthony, they got on their hands and knees on this one, and they got on their hands and knees on the hotel case. The big difference, you ready for it? The hotel room wasn't curtilage. The hotel hallway was not curtilage. That's the big issue. That's the big issue. If that was curtilage, it'd be game over. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so we have a case here where the cops got on a chair. You're welcome. And stood on a chair and looked into the garage and saw a stolen vehicle. Are we good? They called it plain view. Are we good? All right, good job, right? All right. So when it comes to these way like this, looking in the garage and looking into the using the chair, I call this the peep and tom rule, right? And the thing is, like, these cops look like peep and toms. You know what I mean? Like, they're being like really intrusive. But the thing is, like, and Anna brought up a good point, is like, it doesn't apply to open fields. It doesn't really apply to hallways. It applies to curtilage. That's the main thing that we're trying to, train here today. If you're creating this artificial vantage point and the general public would not have done the same thing, they would not have thought they had the right to do the same thing, then that is a search under the Fourth Amendment. Now, at the same time, I'm not telling you that you cannot be nosy. I'm just saying that you should be a little cautious before you be intrusive. All right. Jason says, and Beatrice, by the way, you're absolutely correct. If you're 7 feet tall, then you're good to go, right? If you bring Shaq with you, then fine. If you are walking the alleyway and the garage hits the alley and the door is up, well, look, remember, you're probably okay either way, right? Because the alleyway is not curtilage. But slightly up, I would still be careful, right? I would still be careful. This may not violate curtilage, but it still may violate a person's reasonable expectation of privacy. Let me give you an example, okay? This is a case out of Hawaii. A cop used a ladder to climb up a guy's fence and looked over the fence into the guy's backyard. Now, the cop is not on curtilage. He's in somebody else's yard. But the court still suppressed it because the cop is acting overly intrusive and it violates a reasonable expectation of privacy, even if it does not violate curtilage. Okay. So the next thing is you're lawfully present. Check. You have to have the probable cause without manipulating the evidence, right? And our big case here is a case called Arizona versus Hicks. What happened here, it might be Hicks versus Arizona, it doesn't matter. What happened here is that a cop was in a person's home because shots were fired. Actually, Hicks was playing with a gun. He's a felon. He's playing with his gun, and he shoots the round off. It goes through his floor and hits the damn neighbor. I mean, man, either your apartment is very small or you got some bad luck, man, right? So the neighbor gets hit. Hicks flees. The cops go in there, and they're, clearing it for the perpetrator and more victims. And they see this very expensive stereo. And it looks out of place. Quite frankly, these cops have a hunch that this stereo is not legit. It's probably stolen. They move it ever so slightly. They read the VIN. They run the VIN. They run the serial number. It is stolen. It ties them into another crime. Are we good? Okay. Right. They called that plain view, but that's not plain view, right? Here's another case where let's say the cops are working the bus station, and the bus driver, unloads the luggage, and before the guy gets the before the customer or whatever, the passenger gets his luggage, the cops go up and they squeeze the luggage and air is expelled and they can smell the marijuana, right? And they said that this was plain smell. Well, this is not plain smell, right? Because they manipulated random munchie, right? They manipulated the bag. And this person's violated their expectation of privacy. The contents of the bags were not exposed to Sergeant Butler's sight or smell before the bags were squeezed. He detected the odor of marijuana as a result of an exploratory investigation, an invasion or quest, a prying into hidden places, that which is concealed or hidden. Conduct which has been repeatedly said to be characterized as a search. All right. So here a cop had to move a bag. Okay. The guy was like a shoplifting suspect or something like that. And he moved it and he felt the weight and the outline of a firearm. And, of course, we seize it from there. So what do you guys think about this? Can this fall under plain field? Yeah. All right. Right. The answer is yes, right? The bag with the handgun, we believed, fell securely within the well-established plain view exception. The officer who came upon that container indicated in his testimony that he felt the outline of the gun as he grasped the paper bag. Plain view, we think, is safe to say, encompasses plain touch. So as long as your intention, hey, Eddie from Arizona, man, it's good to see you here, man. Long time no talk, brother. So hopefully the family's good. So, as long as the touching was not with the intent to search, then you're good to go, right? You're good to go. All right. That's good, Eddie. All right. So Thomas says, in regards to manipulation, lawful traffic stop, suspicion of DUI, windy day, you have them blow into your face to confirm the smell. This is why I'm not a police officer anymore. This is why I'm got out of the business. I don't want to be breathing no other person's air. Say Corey knows Lopez. All right. So the let's walk through this, right? So look, we've had this happen. Hey, you want to try to smell the alcohol. Is that a search? Let's say that you order them to do it. Is that a that's awesome. Is that a search? What do you guys think? Is having somebody expel air a search? Yes or no? No, yeah. I want to say no. Here's why I want to say no. I want to say no because you may not have a reasonable expectation of privacy in the odor emanating from your breath. But I want to say yes because you are making it happen. Okay, the answer is going to be yes, right? I'm sorry. The answer is going to be no. It's not a search. God, I'm torn in this one. Yeah, what am I? What do you think, Sean? Yes or no? Oh, Sean, but you're kind of telling them the blowout, right? Tell. Let's say tell. If you ask, you're fine, right? That's consent. So yeah, Sean's gonna say yes if you're ordering them out. Okay, I agree. Okay, good. Holly, I say yes. All right, good. Yep. I'm good with it. Yep, it's a search. If you're like, hey, blow out, right? And just like the PBT, Sean, isn't it like the PBT as well? You're telling them to blow into the PBT. That is a search. Absolutely, it's a search. Absolutely, it's a search. Absolutely, of course. Now we can do it. We can as part of the investigation. But I got you. Okay. All right. Cool. My guy on YouTube is like they could hold their breath for a while. Eventually they're going to have to breathe, and then you're going to be lawfully present, right? So number one, you are lawfully present. Number two, you don't manipulate stuff, and number three, look, you have to have lawful access. A lot of people conflate plain view and plain view seizure, right? They think the two things are the same. They're not the same. Plain view is right to be, right to see. Plain view seizure is also lawful access. So if you're walking up, right, to the if you're walking up to the car, I'm sorry, if you're walking to a house on Curtilage and you look into the on the driveway, there's a car, and you look and you see evidence in plain view, that does not mean that you can seize it, right? You would have to have another reason to seize that evidence. Maybe the motor vehicle exception, maybe exigency, and so forth. Now, plain view allows you to grab and go if you don't need to make another constitutional intrusion. That just makes sense, right? If you are lawfully present, you can always grab and go. If you're inside of a home investigating domestic and you see something on the kitchen table that's illegal, you can grab and go. You don't need a warrant for that, right? Seeing something in open view does not, of course, dispose ipso facto, like in fact, right, of the problem of crossing constitutionally protected thresholds. Those who thoughtlessly over-apply the plain view doctrine to every situation where there is a visual open view have not yet learned the simple lesson long since mastered by old hands at the burlesque house. You can't touch everything you can see, right? What's Jason's question? What about using DNR gaming warden to access the property? Well, hold on here. Are you talking about, give me some more context here. Are you saying that, give me some more context here, right? Well, but look, here's the deal though. Yeah, I mean, I can answer this. I would love to answer this more after this webinar, right? Okay, hey, Jason, would you like to ask your question online? I mean, not online, live, right after this webinar? Man, I tell you, I'll give you a special prize. I'll give you a special prize. All right, let's do that. All right. Light waves cross thresholds with constitutional impunity, not permitted by arms and legs. Wherever the eye may go, the body of the policeman may not follow. Okay. So here's a case where the cops see a stolen watercraft inside a garage. They want to go in there and seize it. They want to pull it out. They don't have consent. They don't have exigency, and they don't have a warrant. No go, right? No go. They're going to need a warrant in this case, exactly, because there's a force field on that garage, and it is the home, right? All right, containers. If you have probable cause for items inside of a vehicle, you can seize it under plain view, but you need another reason to. Okay, if you have PC, okay, so sorry, I thought we were talking about more. So if you have probable cause that there's something in a container, you can seize that container. Let's think of backpack, right? If you have probable cause that there's drugs in a backpack, fine, seize the container, no problem. However, to get into the backpack, you need another reason. Search, instant to arrest, consent, exigency, motor vehicle exception, right? Something like that, right? The foregone conclusion is, there's just no privacy interest left. Like, 100% that there's only one thing in that container, and that is the drugs, because the guy told you there's drugs, right? And there's probably nothing else in the container. That would be a foregone conclusion, right? There's no real interest and no real value in getting a warrant in those situations. Okay. So courts have drawn a distinction between the plain view seizure of a container and the subsequent search of that container. Because the seizure in the plain view doctrine does not compromise the interest in preserving the privacy of its contents. So just because for example, let's say you have probable cause that there's narcotic paraphernalia in the Crown Royal bag, right? Can you search it? The answer is no, right? Because the PC doesn't get you into the container, right? Okay. This is a mistaken interpretation of the plain view doctrine. Under the plain view exception to the warrant requirement, a police officer can seize an object in plain view without a warrant only if the object's incriminating character is immediately apparent. In this case, the object in plain view was the pouch not the contraband, right? Now, even though searching the pouch was not authorized under plain view, they could affect a warrantless search, a seizure and warrantless search of the pouch under the search instant to arrest doctrine. So ultimately, the evidence was not suppressed. So there was a reason to get into the pouch. It just was not plain view, right? What about filling the bag and the contents on the outside? Like, well, first of all, you have to make sure that you're filling the bag lawfully, because patting down a Crown Royal bag is a search under the Fourth Amendment. But you still could not get into it with those facts. You would need another exception: search instant to arrest, motor vehicle exception, consent, and so forth, right? Okay. So here was a case where the cops were at this guy was a shooting suspect, and he was a felon that they believed shot himself. He was playing with a gun and shot himself. And they see his clothes in a hospital bag. They then retrieve the clothes and they test it for gunshot residue and so forth, and they can prove that he was the one that shot. And the court upheld it, right? So they said, we agree with the district court that the totality of circumstances take into account of Officer King's experience with the hospital practices regarding the patient's property, the appearance of the defendant at the time the officer spoke with him, and the obvious fact that the defendant had been shot in the area of the body usually covered with clothing, support the determination that it was a foregone conclusion the bag under the Davis's hospital bed contained the clothing he wore when he was shot. So this works best. This doctrine works best when the only really thing in that bag is going to be evidence, right? That's the thing, right? All right. So also, if you have a container like this that announces its contents in a way that only contraband is inside, you don't need a warrant, right? You don't need a warrant to open up drug packages and so forth, and these, so forth. All right. Okay. Obviously, this one is in a container, but you can see through it. There is no need for a warrant to open up clear containers as well. That doesn't make any sense, because it's a foregone conclusion that what's inside of it is contraband. All right. Sensory aids. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're kind of running out of time here. Actually, I'm not going to. This will be in the slides. Okay. Let's talk about a thermal imager. Right? Can you use a thermal imager? The answer is yes, as long as you don't point it towards a what? You can use a thermal imager, but just don't point it towards a home, right? Exactly, Shane. We talked about the flashlight rule, right? You can do that as well. Using a flashlight falls under the sunlight rule. Don't worry about that. They shined a flashlight into a camper, and they saw this is not a good picture, but they saw in the cracks that there was evidence inside the camper. The court suppressed it because even though the cops are like on a open fields, the parking lot, for example, the guy appeared to have some privacy interests, right? When a person has taken affirmative measures to safeguard his property within an area from public view, a minute crack on the surface of such area can hardly be regarded as an implied invitation to any curious passerby to take a look. So that's a bad picture because there's a lot of gap in that camper. But think about a camper that fits snugly, right? And you're looking in there in the gap in the weather stripping. That's going to be a search under the Fourth Amendment. Inadvertent. Originally, when the Supreme Court came out with the plain view exception, they required that the plain view be inadvertent. That just means like you weren't really intending to look for the evidence. That has gone away, right? That has gone away. However, some states still keep it. Hawaii, Massachusetts, New York, they require that it just be inadvertent, that you basically, you can't, especially when it comes to homes, right? So here are the requirements. Number one is that the location, like you have probable cause that there's evidence inside a home, and you intend to seize it, and you had time to get a warrant, but you didn't, and somehow you got into the home anyway. Let's say, for example, with consent, and as you're in the home with consent, you grab the evidence. In Massachusetts, that would likely be suppressed, right? Because it's not inadvertent. It's not like natural that just happened. But I can tell you that most states, the vast majority of states, do not care. Do not care, right? Cops have probable cause that Johnny sells drugs from his apartment, but get no warrant. They hear that medical staff are called to his apartment and they want to assist the fire department. But their really intent is to see the evidence in plain view. Is that lawful? Absolutely yes. In most states, but not in Massachusetts, New York, and Hawaii. New Hampshire is a little tricky. All right. So let's talk about plain touch. Yep. All right. So plain view seizure. You have a lawful pat down. The evidence is immediately apparent once you touch it, once you feel it, and you have probable cause that it is evidence, right? That's pretty easy. Lawful pat down, it's immediately apparent, and you have probable cause, right? This comes from a case called Dickerson. What happened here is that some Minnesota police officers, believe that Dickerson possesses narcotics, and they start patting him down, and they start manipulating stuff in his pockets, and they find that there's narcotics. Now, the court said, hey, look, you can do pat downs. That's not a problem, right? But you just can't. You can have, if you feel something that's immediately apparent, that's fine too. But you just can't manipulate these things. That's really what the court was talking about, right? Yeah, Thomas says there has to be a record of LE responding to the EMS fire calls. Otherwise, it's no go. There actually is some truth to that because that's called community care. Well, we don't call it community caretaking anymore in homes, but the idea is that these entries, right, should be in good faith, right? Thomas, is that what you're kind of saying, right? They should be in good because you're trying to help people, not trying to send them to prison. The officers continued exploration of the respondent's pocket after having concluded that it contained no weapon, was unrelated to the sole justification of Terry, the protection of the police officer and others thereby, right? All right. So manipulation issues. I'm going to talk about two things, and then we're going to kind of prepare for our webinar. Let me see it. Hey, Rick, make sure Mike Boone is ready to go. All right. Let me know when Mike is ready. I don't see him on the participants. Oh, there he is. Okay. So I guess I typed in Michael, huh? All right. So manipulation issues. First of all, if you are dealing with, weapons, right? And the courts think that you're just still trying to figure out that it's a weapon, whether or not it's a weapon. The courts will give you some wiggle room. But if it's contraband and you're like, no, I know it's not a weapon, but it may be contraband, you are not going to get any wiggle room. You're not going to get any leeway here. You're going to be done. You cannot manipulate it, period. Right? So during the pat down, an officer felt a rolled up bag that wasn't sure if it contained a weapon, right? He then manipulated to make sure. And the court said, we conclude that the police were acting well within the bounds of Terry. Sergeant Mason was conducting a lawful protective pat-down search when he felt the heavy object in the Rogers coat pocket. He manipulated the object for a few seconds to determine what it was and felt a hard object that was and a softer object. At that point, Mason was not yet able to exclude the possibility that there was a weapon, in the pocket. So you can tell here that the courts seem to be giving a little latitude for weapons, but they will not give any latitude for narcotics, right? If you are going to testify, Your Honor, I did not think it was a weapon, but I still wasn't sure if it was anything else, and you manipulated it, and you're still trying to figure out what the hell is going on and twisting and so forth, you're done. You lawfully begin to pat down a suspect who was alleged to have been involved in narcotic sales. During the pat down, officer felt a hard but flexible object, sounds like a sexual device, and removed it. Was this plain field? The court said no, because how is this a weapon? Right? How is this a weapon? They want to hear these things, right? Officer lawfully patted down a suspect and filled a Tic Tac container. Based on training experience, he knew that many people kept drugs in Tic Tac containers. Are we good? Right. The answer is no. We need to articulate why we think that this container contained contraband. All right. I'm sorry, I'm going to flip through these. I'm going to pause for a second. We don't have time to get through all these, right? So running out of time a little bit. All right. So look. So while I answer this question, do me a favor, right? See if this stuff works, right? So, question regarding weapons with Indiana constitutional carry. Does just saying officer safety really apply unless the officer can articulate why? Or seeing a firearm at a traffic stop enough? The answer is and in fact, I know the answer in Indiana. The answer is it's not enough, right? Because the problem is that number one, and I got a case for you, by the way. So so the case involved in Indiana, the case involved this guy who was a lawful possessor of a firearm. He actually told the cop, he says, "Hey, I have a firearm under my seat. Maybe a weird place to carry it, but he said I'm a lawful possessor," and he had his card and everything, right? And I'll definitely tell you the answer in Indiana. I'm positive on this one. And hold on one second. Boom. There it is. So the case is Davis versus State. Okay. Davis versus State, 2019, Indiana Court of Appeals. And the citation is NE 3D 46. Hold on. I got it. Hold on, Rick. I gotta. Rick, I'm gonna send it to you. You're gonna have to you might have to cut and paste it a couple times into the chat, okay? Because it's kind of big. So basically, you'll see there that the guy said he had a gun. The cop searched the vehicle to seize the firearm during a traffic stop and found marijuana, and they hit him with the marijuana charge, all thrown out because the cop did not argue and articulate why that gun was a danger to him under these circumstances. Right? And so there's your answer. Okay. Now, does that apply to other states? I think the answer is yes. Okay. I think the answer is yes. And I had a prosecutor, Jessica Walsh out of Vegas, and she said, "Hey, look, because most cases, I got to tell you one thing that you have to know though, is that most cases around the country are very lenient on officer safety when it comes to these guns. And I think we can appreciate that. Guys, everybody can appreciate that, right, Jason? However, if you got a cop on the stand, and I'm familiar with these other cases too, right? But you got a cop on the stand and he says, guns equal danger, right? And you're like, okay, so you're saying that the guy stopped, he didn't like take a long time to pull over, he was completely compliant, 10-2, that's my client, right? Did my client give you any indication that he was a danger to you besides being a Second Amendment, practitioner? No, but he has a gun. Okay, so for that alone, you're gonna seize that firearm, right? Okay, what if you pulled over an off-duty cop from a neighboring jurisdiction, and he's acting exactly how my client is acting, cooperative, 10-2, no lip? Are you going to seize his firearm too? Well, no. So why are you seizing my client? Because he's not a cop? You have to be a cop to be safe, to not be a danger to police? In other words, it's a very good question, isn't it? So have a reason besides just officer safety. That's all. That's all. All right, let's do some trivia. You guys ready for the trivia? And then we're going to get into the Search and Seizure show with my friend, Mike Boone. All right. So, first of all, your answer has to be all in one reply. We can't have no chopped up answers here. I can't put it all together. I'm not a seamstress. The chat must be sent to everyone. Otherwise, how do people know you won? You got to wait for the timer before they send your answer. You'll see a timer for 10 seconds. Do not hit the send button until the timer hits 0, and you can only win once. Okay. All right. And Sean, you can't win it all because you probably have a library of blue to gold merchandise that you're hawking on eBay. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we got here. All right. Let's see. Even I don't even know the questions here. So, what are the 2 requirements for establishing a reasonable expectation of privacy? Oh, damn. This is gonna be a tough one because I'm not sure I really went into this one that much. All right, let's just see if somebody can get it. No, damn, it's gonna be a tough one. You deserve it. All right. Whoops, Rick. You gotta put it in one email. Mario, you're on to something. Put it in one email, Mario. Or I'm sorry, one chat. Okay. Okay. Damn it, John, you got the answer, but you didn't send to everybody. So repeat that answer. And Mario, that's the case, but those are not the 2 factors. So John, send it to everybody because nobody can see it except me. This is man, Rick, I'm sorry. This is I did not see these questions. Let me help me with this. And I did not focus on that today. So Jason, just repeat it. Jason, just copy and paste your answers. All right, good. Thank God. Jesus, I hope to get this over with, man. I want to go jump off a bridge. All right. So, did the suspect expect privacy? Was it considered reasonable? And both are required. I did not really dive into that this much. I'm sorry. I kind of glossed over because of time. But, John, you still knew it, and you're going to get the answer, right? Look at Sean. All right. So, John, email richard@bluetogold.com, and he'll let you know how to claim your prize. All right, John, good job. You're clearly smarter than everybody else in the room because you're the only one that really, well, Mario was onto something too, but didn't do the whole answer. All right, let me see if I taught this today, Rick. All right, I taught this one. What's the difference between open view and plain view? Okay, I'll go with Keelan's answer. That works for me. The open view is everywhere. Plain is expectation of privacy, right? Okay. So, Keelan, email richard@bluetogold.com. All right. The final question before we start our Search Seizure show in a few minutes here, we'll take a quick union break, is what are the 3 things you need for plain view seizure? No, hold on. Don't send it. Okay. All right. Nope. Yeah, Donis, you're close, but that's not really the 3 things. No, that's Rick. That's plain feel. Okay, Jason. He didn't win. Am I mixing those names up? He didn't. He already didn't. Did he win already, Rick? Mario. Okay, Jason, you didn't win already tonight, right? I'm mixing up these names, but hold on. John did, okay. But hold on, let me see. Mario says read that one. So hold on. Make sure I got this right. Yeah, Mario, it's right to be right to see. That's not the answer. Right to B, right to C is plain view, but it's not plain view seizure, right? The question is what was the plain view seizure? Oh, the other one. Look, this is like now we have a we have to go to arbitration, Rick. Mario, hold on. You said cats versus United States. No, that's not it. That's not. Hold on, Jesus. There's so many damn. There's so many here. We're definitely going to arbitration on this. I wish Rick can help me out here. What the answer is. Anyway, I can't. I don't see it. I see right to B, right to C, lawful access. But who? Okay, so that's a 703. No, but he. No, but he put his answer is before yours. There it is. His answer is before yours. That's so there it is. All right. So, all right. Jonathan wants to get in the mix like 5 minutes after the polls closed. All right. Vote early and vote often. I like the way you guys think. All right. So here's the deal. We got some more webinars coming up. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's take about a 5-minute break and stick around, guys. You know what? If you're around and you got you're on duty or whatever, or you're at your house just kind of chilling, why don't you guys listen to some of these questions that we have for for the Search and Seizure show. All right. So all right.